Sixth Patriarch's poem becomes a point of interest. So one day Zen Master Seung Sahn said to the assembly, the Sixth Patriarch's poem hit the head monk's poem. The head monk's poem says, body is Bodhi tree, mind is clear mirror stand. Always clean, 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 don't keep dust. The Sixth Patriarch poem then hit him in the following way, and I'll read it line by line. So head monk's first line, body is Bodhi tree. Sixth Patriarch Haeng says, Bodhi has no tree. Second line, mind is clear mirror stand. Clear mirror has no stand. Then third line, always clean, clean, clean. Third line for Haeng was originally nothing. Final line, don't keep dust, by the fifth would-be patriarch, the head monk. And then the Sixth Patriarch's poem read, where is dust? So don't keep dust. Then he replied, where is dust? So one of the gates in our Quantum School of Zen asks us to look at that, because I could hear San Sanim saying, this Sixth Patriarch attached to emptiness, right? So everything just throw away, throw away. Each line like that, push out. But if I pick up the stick, everybody hears that sound and brings it back right to this moment. So that was an important point in the teaching. So then, okay, then I'm thinking, ruminating once more, about together action, and then these famous Zen recluses, hermits, that went off on their own and in their own right became famous. Chuang-Tzu had written also poetic volumes that became very popular in China about how to keep a not-moving center, live a very simple life. And in living that type of life, you will find happiness. You will find peace. You will find equanimity. And this resonated with all of the Chinese people. So much so that the emperor himself sent well-dressed emissaries on horseback to go seek out Chuang-Tzu, who was living as a hermit. I want to keep this tied together, okay, with the topic. And he lived in this secluded place that had a pond, probably a little bit bigger than our pond here at the Diamond Hills Zen Monastery. When he saw these people coming and saw how they were dressed, the elegance, he knew that they were from the Forbidden City. So he quickly went down to the pond, got in his little rowboat, like rowing out to the middle of this pond. And the emissaries arrived and they're looking for him. Then they see him out in that boat. So they're shouting out to him, "We are here on behalf of the emperor. He sends his best wishes to you and extends an invitation for you to accompany us back, live in the palace, and become preceptor to the nobility as a teacher." And Chuang-Tzu's listening to this in the middle of the lake. And I digress for one moment because it's important to the story. So also Taoism is very animistic. The I Ching, this oracle that became also still today popular, right? Mm-hmm. Was built on these 8 hexagrams. And the combinations that you put together, you multiply that, it becomes 64. But each of those hexagrams is basically taken from nature, primarily tortoise shell. And so at the imperial palace, there was this ancient tortoise who had died, and they cleaned up the shell, and because it was a really good example of these patterns. Okay, so we go back to the story. The emissaries are standing on the bank calling out to Chuang-Tzu. He said, that's a very wonderful invitation from the emperor, and I am so pleased to be the recipient of it. But I have some question for you first. What is your question? You know that tortoise shell that sits in a prestigious place in a building inside the palace, emperor's palace? Yes. Let me ask you, do you think that this tortoise is pleased with many people going back and forth admiring its shell? Or do you think where you now stand in the mud on the banks of the pond, would the tortoise rather be alive right now and playing in the mud right there? So without much hesitation, they said, well, of course, sir, he'd probably be much happier alive and playing on the banks of this pond. He said, very good. You go back and tell the emperor that I'd much rather stay here and play than come there to the palace and be involved in all of this. So now we pull back further to the genesis of my talk. Is this clinging or attaching to emptiness? He was this great teacher. Where is his responsibility? To be in the city, there at the emperor's palace, or just remaining simple man living in the mountains, simple life?